Alright, so we're going to get to putting our trigger group in next. Alright, we want to make sure we get the springs on here correct. You always want these legs sticking out front. Alright, and you always want to make sure that the tail end of this is in the back of the hammer. Sometimes you can get it swung around like that, and that is incorrect. Alright, anyway, first thing we want to do is we need to put, once we've got our springs on, we need to put our disconnect in. This little spring that holds the disconnect has a larger end on one side than it has on the other. Alright, so we're going to take the larger end and we're going to shove that down inside the trigger group, just like that. So now it's in there. Okay, then we're going to put the disconnect on, so that hook right there rides on top of that spring, and then this hole will line up with this hole as well. Now here's a little trick that I got. I took one of these little drive pins out of one of these Gazelle triggers, and I think that's how you say it, I'm not sure.
Geisley,
Gazelle, whatever. Alright, you can make one of these out of a standard pin, but it helps a lot because what I can do now is line this up, stick that pin in there. It doesn't protrude from either side, so now my disconnect is connected into that trigger group, and now all I have to do is drop that in and take one of the pins and push it straight out. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do that for you right now.
Alright, so here we go. I'm going to be dropping this.
Let's see what I'm doing. Okay, there we go.
Do I need to bring this down a little bit more?
No, you're good.
Okay. Alright, so I'm going to be dropping the trigger in. You see the hole there. Going down in the hole, and then on the side, I'm going to line up where Sean had put that Geisley pin. And I've got it lined up now, as you can see there. And I'm going to poke that out, right?
Mm-hmm. You're going to just take your trigger pin and just push straight through there, and that little pin just should fall right through. You might have to work it a little tiny bit. But
now, does it matter on this pin which way I go?
No.
I'm going to go smooth in first here.
Sometimes receivers are tight. You know, get it started. Sometimes you might have to take a soft mallet.
And then
just tap it straight through. Shouldn't feel any resistance, and like I said, that little starter pin will pop right out like it did, and now your trigger is
flush.
Installed. You're flush on both sides. Alright,
good to go.
And your trigger is in there.
And there's the trigger. Blinded myself. Alright, so now next step
is to put the hammer in.
Okay.
Alright, so
I'm going to grab the hammer.
Grab your hammer.
Okay.
And you want to make sure your spring is around it the correct way.
Alright, so now we're putting the hammer in. And I'm going to put the springs right over the trigger springs. And then we're going to put a little tension on it. And then we're going to push it back to where it lines up with this hole. Okay, now I'm going to get my other pin, and we're going to put it in.
Like I said, sometimes they're tight. You know, get it started, and then wrap it with that soft mallet. If it doesn't go straight in, you're going to have to wiggle it around a little bit.
So I'm not lined up. Got to get a little right with it.
Yeah. Gotta hit it like you mean it.
And then we're flush.
Now you're flush on both sides.
Okay.
Alright, next thing you want to do is check your hammer, cock it back, and then release your trigger, but hold the hammer so it doesn't slap the receiver, and just pull the trigger and see if it releases. Push it back, reset the trigger, do it again. Alright, so you know you got it in there right. Alright, cool. You've put a trigger in.
My first trigger.
Alright.
Got its first shot.
Cool. Alright, on to the next step.
Alright. Okay, so we got the trigger assembly put together. We went ahead and put the selector switch in. Sometimes it's easier to do that after you put the trigger group in.
Before you put the trigger
or before you put the trigger group in. But in this case we were able to do it after the fact. Some kits you can do that. So we've got that in. Now we're going to put the trigger guard on. But before we do that, I've got an Ergo Grip Sure Grip Magwell grip. Is that enough grips for you?
That's a lot of grips.
That we're going to put on this particular build. So it just slides over your magwell. like so. And then that gives you a nice cushion. It also protects your mag weld grip in that area. So there you go, easy assembly for that. So now we're going to go and put the trigger guard on. So what we've got here is we've got a retention spring. Is that what you call that?
Mm-hmm. A little detent kind of spring.
A little detent spring, and that's just going to fit right in here. I think I'm doing this right.
Yeah, you got it. You just got to depress it a little tiny bit.
Depress that, and it just slides in like so. And you can see it's in there. So then another tip that Sean gave me is that some people will choose to do this after they've got their buttstock on, but with a forged receiver, what you're going to find is that you may end up breaking these little, what do you call these?
Little tabs.
Little tabs, tabs.
Yeah.
If you don't do it right. But a little trick is if you angle it up and then get that flush with your mat on this area right here, then that should suffice and reduce our risk of breaking those. So I've got that lined up. Now I'm going to take my pin.
And you lost it. There it is.
And
yep.
This is it right here.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to put that here. And I'll work it in with my hand as best I can. I think that's as good as it's going to go. So now I'm going to need the...
Go ahead and use you can use a soft mallet if you want, or you can use a hard mallet.
I'm going to use a soft one because
okay.
I'm a novice. And I'm keeping this up, keeping the pressure there, and I'm just lightly tapping and not forcing it in.
If it's not going, it almost sounded like it started to go, but
let's try the metal one. There it goes. So that's going in. So I just keep on going. I don't have to worry about
till it's flush.
Don't have to worry about marring it or anything.
No, just go till it's flush.
Okay.
Looks like you're flush.
I believe that's flush.
All right.
So now we've got our trigger guard on.
Fantastic.
So on to the next step.
We're going to go ahead and put the grip on next. All right. This particular grip has a specific washer that is needed for this screw, so it doesn't go through because it's such a large grip. This is another cool tool you need. If you get an Allen wrench to put this in, if it happens to be an Allen wrench, a nice long handled one like that, so you can get way down in there and get that bolt started just like that. Very helpful, so you can get out here and work. A little short one obviously wouldn't work because you don't have enough room. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get the grip on. But first what we've got to do, we've got to put this plunger assembly pointed end first down inside that little hole. And that's for your selector. Alright, and then we take this real coarse spring out of the 3 springs that look alike. Alright, this is the only one that looks different, and it's very coarse compared to the other 2. And that's going to sit right here in this hole. Alright, and with some grace, you're going to turn this so you get that pin straight down in there, and then start your screw. And you just want to hold it tight, and then so that spring and detent doesn't pop out, and then just tighten down your Allen wrench. I'm sure there's a torque spec to this, but I sure don't know it. I just do it tight.
And that's our ergo grip that we're using.
Alright, we got your grip on, and now your selector works just fine. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get this buttstock on there and a back end plate. We're going to go put these retention pins in there at the same time. We're going to show you how to do all that, and we should have our lower end of our rifle completely built.